Hello, Mom, and anyone else who might be checking out these videos. Welcome back to another episode of Mostly for Mom. So here we go. This is one of your requests anyway. The big slab o' meat. We are doing a brisket. This could be a long one. I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to be. It took a lot of pictures, so we will just get into it. Maybe have to do part two. I don't know. I guess I'll check with you and find out if you want me to do just one big long video but let's see where we get. So first of all, I wanted to give you a kind of a perspective. I went and got a prime brisket from Sam's Club. And since you said big slab of meat, I tried to get one of the bigger ones I could find. And this is what I came up with. And so to give you some perspective, I had Kathy hold it. So here you go. Here's a big slab of meat. See how adorable she still is? You can't even see her. She's mostly hidden behind that brisket. She's still cute as can be. This gives you a little perspective. It was a lot. What is the weight on that again? So yeah, that was over a 15-pound brisket that we did. So that's just to give you some idea of how big it was. And she was gracious enough to help us out with that. And here we are with it on the table, getting ready to be opened up and trimmed. It is a nice piece of meat. I get excited about doing these briskets, I tell you what. It just takes time, takes patience. This might also give a little perspective. This is next to a pretty good sized coffee cup. So that is the proverbial big slab of meat that you wanted, Mom. Before we trim that, we got to get this fire started. So here's the smoker, or the cooker. This is a char griller. Acorn is what it's called. Got the fire going, and I do that by I have some leftover lard that I keep in that lard bucket. It's been used, and instead of throwing it away, what I do is I just take a paper towel, one of the sections, and rip it up into smaller pieces, and just kind of soak like 3 or so pieces of that. Just get it well saturated with the lard, and I use that as my fire starter typically. I mean, it works for me. I know you can get the fancy ones. I've used those tumbleweed ones in the past. That works pretty well. And then this I've started doing because this char griller is these type of Komodo type of cookers. This one in particular, they're very, very efficient, which sounds like a good thing, but when you're smoking, you want a little more airflow. Like this thing will go for 14 hours at like 225 degrees and barely go through any charcoal, which is great, but you also don't get a whole lot of smoke, right? When it's that efficient, you're just not getting that much smoke. So I've started to take some wood, from our property, some of the oak, and I'll put that in on top of the coals just before I start to do the smoking. And that seems to make it a little less efficient and get you a little bit more smoke. I'm still working at it. I'm no pit master, that's for sure. I'm still, fumbling about sometimes trying to figure out how to do this, all the ins and outs. But in the end, I mean, really, you're still going to be able to make yourself some good food without it being master level, whatever. But but this is what I've come up with, and I've heard that from other people too, that they're so efficient. You actually have to do something to make it a little less efficient. And this, I've noticed in the past, like it cooks the meat well, but you don't get a whole lot of smoke flowing over the meat, and so you don't get that bark that you're looking for when you're smoking. That's the issue with this type of a cooker. So in the future, I will get maybe an offset or a Traeger or something. We'll see if that works any different. I have a feeling I'm going to be one of those people who has all kinds of grills and just uses whatever works best at the time. That would be fun. But this is what I got right now, and it really works well. I can't complain about it. But those wood chunks work pretty well to get more smoke in there and make it a little less efficient, essentially. The fire's going pretty well, and I let it go and just heat up at its own pace. Sometimes I'll put the meat in a little early to get extra smoke on it, like I said, because it's so efficient. And I even included a little video for you. Check this out. I'm branching out. And now it's on to the trimming. This is going to be what they call like a backyard trim. So this isn't like a professional like competition. The way they trim it up, they trim a lot off. And I've always actually had kind of a, I don't know, like a thing about trimming off, because it's true though, because you spend a lot of money on a brisket, especially now that it's gotten popular. They used to be pretty cheap when I think my first one was way cheaper than they are today. Now they've gotten considerably more expensive. So you don't want any of it to go to waste. So I've always had a problem. I've even done them just like, I'm not trimming it. I'm just going to throw it on there like that. But I did get a vacuum packer, which means now I can save all the scraps that I cut off of it, all the pieces to make tallow or grind for ground beef, something like that. So that makes it easier. But this is going to be a backyard trim, which means not real extensive. I want to keep as much meat on this as possible. So I'm not working on making it all pretty and pristine, but still we have to take off some of it. And that is a big piece of meat. So I've trimmed it up. As you can see the difference, it started out pretty big. This is not the fat cap side. This is the lean side. But this is basically it, trimmed down. And then I'm telling you, in the past, when I didn't have a vacuum packer, that much extra meat or scrap on the side would drive me nuts. Like, oh man, because you put it in the freezer, it gets freezer burn if you don't use it right away. But with a vacuum packer, I don't really have those feelings anymore. So I don't have to worry about it quite so much. But that's basically it. We got it all trimmed up. It looks all right. I could, next time I might try to do more in terms of a closer to a competition or work a little harder at it. I don't, it's just a slow cooked slab of meat. So I'm not real pretentious about it. But there you go. It's about ready for the rub to be put on it. Took off several pounds, I guess altogether. It probably ended up with maybe a 12-pound, 11-pound brisket once we're all said and done here. And then this time, I know you wanted to see the seasonings and all that stuff for the rub. To be honest, I've kind of been leaning more with a lot of things that I cook lately. As years have gone by and I've gotten better at cooking, I hope, I found that less is more. So what I've done here, this is just salt, pepper, garlic, I should say. Salt, pepper, and garlic, and that's all I did for this. So it's not fancy, but I think that's all you need. You don't need much more than that, to be honest. And Kathy a lot of times is used to more what in Swahili is nyama choma, which is just the roasted meat. So sometimes she doesn't like all the extra stuff on there, and I'm kind of starting to agree with her more and more. It doesn't need all that. In a lot of places when they do brisket, they just do your basic salt, pepper, or salt, pepper, garlic, something real basic. So that's what we did for this particular brisket. In the future, I'm sure this isn't the only brisket I'll do on the channel or ever, obviously. So we'll work on something with more extensive rub at some point. But for the time being, this is what I felt like doing this time. All right, so now we got the fire going. I put just a few of these wood chunks right on top of that, and then we're basically about ready to get going once it gets up to temperature. And usually I'm looking for, this one I did around 230, 235, somewhere in there, I think. As usually up to 250. I guess it got up to 250. And this cooker is really good about holding a temperature. For something that's definitely wasn't expensive, you can get these for $300 some. I think the first one, this is the second one I've had. The first one succumbed to the the rainy season in Oregon, and I didn't have a cover for it either. I have a cover on this one that I actually do have to replace. It's starting to wear out, but the cover for this cooker actually has helped considerably. I should also mention that I do use lump charcoal for these. I don't use any briquettes anymore. It's always lump charcoal. So that's what we got in there as well. I guess I didn't say that, but that's basically it. And then, you put the stone down there, and that of course gives you the indirect heat. So that goes right on top of everything. And then I put a cast iron with a little bit of water in there on top of that. And we're about ready to go. And I don't put the temperature probe in there right off the bat. I figure I'm just going to let it go. And I'll let it go for a couple hours Like I said, this cooker will hold temperature pretty well, but we'll get it in there and we'll hold it for, let it sit for a while, a couple hours in there before we put the actual temperature probe in it. And it is about ready to go on its little journey there. Here we go. We got it secured away, got it cranking. Here's a little video of, I'm not going to talk through this video just so you can hear it, but this is just this thing cranking out some smoke. And it doesn't do this unless I put those wood chunks in there. It'll crank out a little smoke, but check this out. All right, so now it's been a couple hours, and so now I'm going to put the temperature probe in. Temperature probe doesn't need to go in right away because it's going to be about room temperature or somewhere in that neighborhood. So you already know that, so I might as well let it go and put the temperature probe in, when I check on it the first time. So this is the first time checking on it, a couple hours down the road, and this is when I'm going to go ahead and insert the temperature probe. I put that into basically the thickest part of the meat. And then from there, we let it go up until the point where it hits the stall. If you're familiar with that or not, the stall is when you have a piece of meat like this. It could also be a pork butt, pork shoulder. As the connective tissue and the fat renders out, the connective tissue starts to break down. It reaches a point around 160, 170 internal temperature where it will just stall out. It'll stay there, and you're like, "Oh, what's going on?" I remember the first time it happened to me because I didn't know anything about it. I was, just winging this stuff, and you hit this point, you're like, "What's going on with my? It's not changing temperature. Am I doing something wrong? Is the temperature probe not working? Like, what's happening here?" And it's just a normal thing, And of course, what's your, kind of the knee-jerk reaction sometimes is I got to adjust the cooking temperature, do all this stuff. Nope, it just takes time. Just be patient. You'll get there. But the first time, oh my goodness, it almost had a hissy fit. But anyway, so we let it get up to about that stall temperature. So it's around 165, somewhere in that neighborhood. I did a pastrami, and that's another thing we'll do in the future. So that's also a brisket. And of course, you let it brine for about a week to 10 days first. And then you smoke it. And then you wrap it and you cook it wrapped for a while too. And I thought it came out so tender when I did that, even though it had brined and sucked a lot of the moisture out when you do that. But it still turned out so tender. I didn't used to wrap it, but I started wrapping them, and I might even go to tinfoil too. I'm not sure. Some people say the tinfoil can give it too much of a stewed type of flavor, but some people swear by it. But for the time being, what I do is I wrap it up in butcher paper. I love butcher paper. I don't know why. You'll see in a while. I love butcher paper when it gets like the grease on it. I don't know why. I dig that. Anyway, this is it. It's all wrapped up, ready to go back into the smoker. So here we go. Here's another video of that thing cranking out some smoke. Doesn't really need the smoke as much at this point, but yeah, it's working. So I got the wood chips are in there, the chunks I should say, and it's doing what it does. So check this one out. And the other thing too with the when you wrap it, it cuts down on the cooking time, obviously. So this is probably one of the fastest smokes I've ever done on a brisket. I think it took a total of 8 or 9 hours. I've done 14 hours on these before. So you start early in the morning, you're going till late at night. And since I don't have it's not like a set it and forget it type of a grill. You got to man this thing. You got to give it attention, which I enjoy. For the most part, I do see the merits. I should say this is a funny thing too. I was checking out an offset grill when I was walking into an Academy of Sports or something like that here in Franklin. And all of a sudden I hear this voice behind me say, "Get a Traeger." I'm like, what? What is this? The clouds are opening up? Where's this coming from? But it's some guy behind me just said, "Get a Traeger." And I can see where he's coming from because those use like wood pellets. And then you just put it in there. You can kind of set the timer. You set it, you forget it, you walk away, and it does its thing. So I get that, but it's kind of fun to pay attention to the to the grill and pay attention to the meat and make sure your temperatures. There's something to be said for that. I don't mind it, so I get that. But you know, who knows in the future what'll happen. So here we got this basically ready to come off at this point. So this is done. It's up to about 200, 205 degrees internal temperature. So that's where we're going to take it off. So we're good to go on that. So what we do then is I take that whole thing and I wrap it up in a towel that I use specifically for this sort of a thing. And we're going to let it rest for probably an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we wrap it up, we put it in a cooler, and this is going to allow all those juices to kind of reabsorb back into the brisket, keep it nice and juicy, ostensibly. So that's what we do. We put it in a cooler. And then when you pull it out of the cooler, this is my favorite part. One of my favorite parts, I should say. You pull out of the cooler, and look at that butcher paper. Oh, I love that. I don't know. Is anyone else like that? I love that. Butcher paper just coated in all that delicious fat. Oh, that looks so good. Look at that. I don't know what it is. I just dig that. Dig a butcher paper just soaked through like that. Oh, is that weird? I don't know, but I really dig that. Anyway, and so now at this point, we're ready basically to just slice this thing up, and let's reveal. Well, first, before we slice it up, we got to open it up so you can get a look at it. So here you go. Check this out. Look at that. Now, I will say, like I said, I'm not a pit master. This looks delicious to me. However, the bark on it is supposed to be more uniform, more of a dark, you know, if you look at briskets when they're, you know, people that really know what they're doing, unlike me, you get that bark all the way, almost black on the whole thing. It's got a really dark color to it. And this turned out, like, again, this looks fine. It's good. It turned out well. It's just, it's not, and it could be, again, that cooker is so efficient and it's so hard to get the level of smoke. That's what happened with my pastrami too. You know how dark a pastrami is on the outside? That's from the smoking. And if your cooker is really efficient, it sounds like a great thing, but you just don't get the level of smoke across the meat to really produce that bark. That's what I think. But here's a couple other pictures of it. It did turn out very nicely. I mean, delicious. Look at that thing. It's a nice big old slab of meat, huh, Mom? Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. So now that's all we got to do is cut that up. So here you go. Got some slices. This is from the flat. So, and I'm still figuring out this too. So on one side of it, the flat, you can separate that from the point, which is on the other side. This is basically where your pastrami and stuff will come from. Here is this flat part. And I really haven't really got into separating the point out from the flat and all that stuff, getting into the anatomy of the cow. But this turned out very, very well. Delicious, juicy, smoky. Adding those wood chunks has really been helpful. It was a good, doing something to decrease the efficiency of my cooker. Doesn't that sound weird that I have to do that? But there we go. Delicious. Then we got to put that, just got to eat some, right? So first thing we're going to do is just going to put it on a bun. And there we go. Just have a nice little brisket sandwich with some barbecue sauce. I like Stubbs. You like Stubbs? That's usually what I get. I don't know what it is. I really like Stubbs barbecue sauce, so that's what I get. This is just the original, I think. Star could have been the sweet and spicy or sweet and some, whatever. But Stubbs, really good stuff. But look at that sandwich. Oh, it's so good. Especially after waiting, too. Waiting all day for this. Oh. But this is basically the classic cut. You know, you'll see how it's kind of almost perpendicular to the cuts on the flat. This would be towards the point side. And I think I got it right. So what you want to do is you want to cut against the grain of the meat so it comes off even more tender when you go to enjoy it. There you go. You can kind of see. I should have held one up, right? I got shadows in there and stuff. Goodness, what am I doing? But anyway, you kind of get the idea. That is the classic cut of brisket right there. Very tender. Came out real, real nice. And again, I think this is probably the most I've ever trimmed a brisket. Another pretty picture there with the soak through butcher paper. Oh. And it was really, really delicious. And we even, I vacuum packed a good amount of it. I still have some left. Still have all the fat to make some tallow. Might even make some soap with it. Who knows? Maybe I should even throw a couple pictures of the. We'll see. Might throw some. We'll see. I might throw some pictures of. I have a vacuum packed package of the fat and also another package of the rest of the brisket. At least one package that we brought here. We might have left one at home as well. But there you go, Mom. Big old slab of meat for you. Hope you enjoyed this one. This one was fun. This is always fun. I love, smoking smoking meat is just such a fun thing to do. I would love to be able to spend more time doing it, maybe in the future. But even if I do that, then you got to kind of figure out a way to almost give the meat away, which would be fun too, to do it for other people somehow or whatever. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that, Mom. Not sure how long that was all together, but that was a real fun one. Never done a prime brisket before, so that was just for you, Mom. It was just a Sam's Club prime. I'm not sure how that translates to others. I could definitely envision at some point doing like maybe a Wagyu or something like that type of brisket would be really fun to do at some point. But I gotta maybe refine my technique a little bit or what have you. Very enjoyable to do, very fun. It's really a whole day type of venture, or 2-day type of things. You get it, you kind of get things prepared the night before and what have you. But there we go. We'll definitely do this again. We'll definitely do a pork shoulder at some point as well. And some other things we got coming down the pike, I'm sure. But there's the big slab of meat, Mom. I hope you enjoyed this one. Love you. And of course, any other family. Dad, if you're watching, love you too. I should say too, obviously this is mostly for Mom. But Mom wouldn't have been able to be such a great mom if Dad hadn't been there, right? Dad really helped pave the way so that Mom could stay home and be the awesome mom and do all the good cooking. So thank you for that, Dad. If you hadn't done such a good job at being a dad, Mom wouldn't have been able to do such an amazing job at being a mom. So there you go. So thank you both. And anyone else watching, I hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.